there. It's 3 o'clock, and we're going to start the meeting. I'm expecting two more people to come in, and the main reason why I'm calling this is because I think we want to start this type of talks, and Dan, who's watching, is going to lead some of the talks we're doing soon. So he's had some of it lined up, and I think this is a really important way of engaging our members and just looking for ways where we could inform the applications they're creating. And through these talks, like we could have this really amazing community of people who just have conversations together and create new things that will help us into a more productive society. So without further ado, let's start. This talk is called Progressive Tech After Brexit. As you know, Donald Trump won, and we really want something to be learned about what happened in Brexit that we could apply in America as we move forward with this with these things that are happening around us. So we have in the panel supposedly Alvin, who's from the fourth group, and I would let you introduce yourself as well and tell us all about what you're doing. But we would love to know in this session, like what was it that happened after Brexit, and how did people organize, and like what was the role of tech throughout. So I would love you. So I would let you take it away. If anyone has questions, please put it in the chat box at the right, and I'll call you there. Yeah. So let's start. Hey Ed.
Hello.
Oh. So yeah, go for it.
Thanks so much for that, and thank you so much for introducing us today. I mean, obviously, across the pond, we're watching with bated breath to see, how you guys respond, particularly given our response and our sort of real awakening, I guess, when it came to the political earthquake of Brexit in Great Britain. I guess I'll be very quick in my comments. First of all, I'll talk a bit about the fourth group, who we are, the story of how we and why we set up, and then finally a bit about the tech aspect of it. So first of all, just to introduce the fourth group, we were set up and we are a global community of now over 1,000 people working together to create a new politics in the context of the fourth industrial revolution. What that means is that we're really trying to figure out how the fourth industrial revolution is affecting ourselves, the way we live, work and play, but most importantly, how it's affecting politics, its institutions, its people, its traditions and philosophies. We actually started off in the wake of Brexit, where 4 of us came together and just thought, what is going on? And that sort of lack of clarity and sort of real, I guess, personal sense of powerlessness, and a sense that what we really believed couldn't happen happened. So we decided to come together, and actually we held our very first meeting as a meetup. So it's very simple. We kept it simple. We said, guys, friends, colleagues, if you want to come together and think about how we move on from this, let's meet up. So 50 of us met up in East London. We didn't have any big speakers or anything. We just had a discussion. We broke up into 3 groups and decided to ask ourselves what's wrong with politics. More importantly, what can be done about it? And in a way, it was those conversations and those relationships set up, like in meetings like this, where the fourth group really expanded. So I guess in a way we were born out of anger, but for me personally, I'd been thinking about these kinds of things since attending Davos in January this year, where Klaus Schwab had released a book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. He talked about economies and societies, but not much about politics. So we really saw an opportunity, and I guess Brexit was the spark. So I guess for many of you in America, this almost is a massive opportunity to really galvanize people who share your values to work on something progressive. And so in terms of the questions we're asking, I mean, how the hell do you create a new politics? Our bet and our gamble is that we're building on 4 pillars. So the first of all is a global community. We are building that through Facebook. It sounds very simple, but even though we want to move to a world where we want it to be idealistic and so forth, we want to go where people are. So as opposed to building our community through a new tool or through a new platform, we go to where people are, and then from that, develop other things from that. The second thing is around education. So we really want to educate people about all of these technological changes, which actually the layperson and the people who aren't in networks like yourselves don't really understand. So the simplicity of saying what AI is, what robotics are, what coding is, for the political community, many of those, it's very new to them. I guess if you look at it in the US elections context, the most techie thing that was mentioned from what I saw across the pond was Clinton's emails. In Parliament, the most techie thing, in terms of artificial intelligence, the amount of times that's been mentioned in Parliament, you can count on the fingers on your hands. So there's a big gap between politics and the political class, as well as the technologies that are completely shaping our world. And so we want to bridge that by building that community. Fourth of all, we want to build a new political philosophy. So if I was in Greece for summer for 2 weeks, and I managed to, so I was sort of like, doing a lot of reading, did a walking tour and heard a story about the Acropolis where in Greece, people had gathered on a hill in Athens to decide what the problems were, and then voted as to how they would respond to those problems. And I guess that was the birth of democracy in a very simple manner. What we're looking to do is to see the digital world as a new jurisdiction, to see it as an opportunity for people around the world to do exactly what they did on that hill in Greece, but actually using platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and things which are used by most ordinary people and so forth, and trying to figure out how we can create a global agenda for change and then act upon it. The fourth, which I think for you is most critical, is political technology. So we're calling that Polytech. Effectively, we do Polytech hackathons. And the first one we did in London, we're going to do another one in Paris soon, and then following that in San Francisco. The one in London, we had Ed as a guide, which was wonderful to have. But I think for us, we saw the value of it was really just bringing the politics community and the digital tech coders community together. And it was just, in a way, it seemed awkward in the beginning because there were two very different cultures. But in the end, the winning team had created a truth feed. And we're obviously hearing about a lot of this in the news, and Google had just given £150,000 or $150,000 to fund fact-checking projects. But the winner of the Polytech Hackathon in London was this true feed, and they went on to win another prize in Paris. I think for me, the challenge for you guys is to say, even though we need to create new technologies to innovate and to think about how we can make politics more inclusive, open, and accountable, actually starting off where people are in terms of building communities, probably for us, what we're really putting our money on in terms of building community from that. But we are open to seeing what kind of new things can be done, just given all the change in technology. I'm not a technologist myself, I'm not a coder. So for me, it's been a journey. But in the last 4 months, we've started with nothing in Brexit. We've now got 1,000 people who are, part of the community. And the next thing we're doing, we're actually going to be doing a very similar process in San Francisco. So I'm speaking to a couple of people there who are going to do the exact same thing, 50 people to meet up, discuss what's wrong with politics, discuss what they can do about it, and then potentially hold another Polytech hackathon in San Francisco and see where it goes. So we are in year one, we're in experimentation phase. Our big value is that community of politics and technology people, and we're just hoping to see a really good 2017. Obviously, the one last thing I'll leave you with is this isn't going to stop. So it's been happening across Europe. We nearly had the far-right candidate in Austria being elected. And we've got the French elections next year with Le Pen's odds of being the next leader of France lowering. So the likelihood of her winning is going on. This isn't a British or a US problem. It's a global problem. And even as a non-partisan and independent organization, we're really trying to capture that, that anger and try and make it for a positive cause. So I hope that overview gives you a sense of where we're at. As I say, we're not trying to use and create technology for creating technology's sake, but we're really open to hearing what's going on across the US to see what we can learn from you guys.
Thank you so much, Alvin. I know that you have to go, but thank you for giving us your time to talk about that. I think that's a really great way to inform us on what's happening there and how things should be in America. Again, thanks so much, Alvin, the fourth group. So Yeah, have a great dinner, by the way. So,
Thanks very much.
um,
I look forward to hearing how it goes, and Rappy, it'll be good to speak after to see how we can help.
definitely. Thanks, man.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Okay, so next up would be Greg Dash. He's part of the Red Labour, and I know that he is now one of the political advisors for an MP in London. I think he has led an amazing core of coders from Coders for Corbyn, and I would love to hear more about. We would love to hear more about your take on it and like how you see it as like how progressive tech happened and formed after Brexit, or how just in general. So take it away, Greg. Can you
Hello,
hear?
can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear.
Oh, fantastic. All right. Yeah, so yeah, cheers for inviting me to come and chat. I'm sorry it's going to be brief because I'm just in the middle of traveling from London to Manchester. And like, like I said, I've been employed by the Labour Party, which is really good as well, following all the stuff I did through the campaign. So yeah, the Brexit result was a bit of a shock, and then straight away we went into a leadership contest. So, Jeremy Corbyn, people use, his opponents use Brexit as a way to launch the leadership bid. And, really inspired by the work that you have done, you lot really, that we formed a group called Coders for Corbyn. And the way that we did that, so Red Labour is a project that started about in 2011. And we were the ones responsible really for getting Jeremy Corbyn onto the ballot to become leader in the first place. So we organised through social media to get everyone, all the MPs, to nominate him. And just by putting pressure on social media, it's a social media project really. And yeah, so in the leadership election, we put out a bid saying any coders around want to get involved. I made a really shitty meme, like a really shitty image, and it was really just taken up. And people just started to self-organise. I wrote a manifesto for the organisation, which is based on kind of like an idea from like, I'm a Deleuzean, and like I like the idea of from Deleuze as the rhizome, and so it's fairly open sort of structure. There's no leaders, and it's kind of based on the the way Valve organised. So people form cabals and then go off and form groups and work on different projects, hoping that it will be self-sustainable and things like that. So the first week we kind of really were inspired by the Bernie campaign and built on a lot of the things that you did. So like we did our own version of the Burn Kit. It was kind of like a dashboard, and then worked on a number of different projects. We did our own emojis, and it really just became a sort of a space where people can engage, who may not usually engage in politics, can engage in it and create things for the campaign. We worked with the campaign a bit, the official campaign, but we were independent, and there were some challenges in doing that, really. What's that? Yeah, should we go? Yeah, okay. Yeah, and and from what's going on next now, so actually I think we're at a bit of a crossroads. So it's since the campaign, it's been difficult to keep people motivated, and that's really the challenge that we've got now. When there was an election, everyone had a kind of defined thing, we're all going for keep Jeremy in, but now it's about keeping up the momentum and keeping people going. So that's the challenge really, and if you lot have any advice on that, I'd really greatly appreciate it. So we work on like Slack, like you lot as well, and I'm also looking at some different ways of avoiding leaks. So I think there's an app that we use which prevents screenshotting. But what we really need, right, is a sort of program like Slack that allows team group chats that has that built in to prevent screenshotting. It's a massive problem for the Labour Party and for organising within the Labour Party. So that was something really good. The main kind of key project at the core of everything is the rhizome. So it's from Deleuze, but it's a bit like Nation Builder, but it's open source. And that's what we're working on, really.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Greg.
Cheers.
I'm looking forward to talking to
Sorry, it's a bit of a...
No worries. This has been great, and thank you so much for spending the time with us today.
Sorry, I have to rush off, but
Take care.
I'll be at the next one properly. All right, I'll be at the next one properly.
Awesome. Thanks.
See you soon.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that was really amazing in terms of like just knowing what is happening on the ground, and I feel like that's a great pivot in terms of like how we could attend to the technological needs of like in just organizing. So I think we will now turn to Ed, who's been like a really great partner and ally with the Progressive Coders Network. He's our person on the ground in the UK. And I think Ed, would you like to start? We would love to hear your thoughts about what's happening with Brexit in relation to what's happening here, and like just your general thoughts about tech.
There we go. Okay, hello. Can everyone hear me okay? I have a terrible
Yeah.
fan.
Yep, we can hear you.
Cool. So, who here is actually in America? Because so far everyone's been okay. Okay, good. Okay, the rest of you, everyone that's not had to run off to dinner.
We're sorry. It was a bad thing. I thought 3 p.m. would be a good time, but
It's not 3 p.m. See, this is the problem with Americans. Lessons from Brexit. It's not as bad as you think it is. It's really, really bad. But there's an awful lot of political machinery in place to defend against this sort of crap, and it's not as bad as Brexit actually either, because we just voted to get rid of all of the political machinery that stops this sort of crap happening. So you know, at worst, you've got 8 years, more realistically 4 years, reasonably realistically a couple of months until he gets impeached, and so there's not actually, it's not that bad. We've undone 40 years of political collaboration and possibly triggered the demise of a political region, which is quite tragic. But the other thing, none of the people that you want to admit that are wrong, or that you think are wrong, are going to admit that they're wrong. They aren't going to change, and they aren't going to change quickly. And that's perhaps not so bad, because at least there are some things that remain the same within the political landscape. Not everything's changing. And the merit of some things changing slowly in politics is actually really good, because it slows things down. It requires more consideration, and it stops dangerous tyrants getting in and screwing everything up. So silver linings. I think as Alvin was saying, though, the problems that created it aren't going anywhere, and there are a lot of voters who just don't think that voting matters, and the number of people who just don't vote and aren't registered to vote is huge, and could easily swing an election. It's enough to start a third party out of. It's enough to it changes everything if those people who currently think this isn't for them can be made to realize it is. There are voters who don't know how to decide. Again, they can be helped. There will be the establishment, and it will continue to do the stuff that it does and try and influence things. And so there are ways of influencing this, and it seems to us that civic tech breaks into 3 sort of chunks. That you've got the information bit, the opening up government data, APIs, and so on, just making information more accessible. Then you've got the participation bit, like petition sites, and where you're making that information that much more interactive. You're saying, here's a bill, we can vote on it, we can do stuff, and we can write to our MP. And then you've got the things that are trying to evolve the system as well, and trying to create a new system. And I would put things like brand new Congress in there, politics reborn a little bit in that sort of space, where you've got people who are trying to move into the system in order to change the system. So it's the paradigm shift thing, or the people who are trying to come up with, the Pirate Party, bringing in new forms, new models of democracy, and so evolving the system. And it's that sort of area that we're playing down here. And if you are to create disruption, when you are trying to influence a system, the easiest time to influence it is when there is an awful lot of change going on. When there is already disruption, if you can come in with more disruption, you get to seed an awful lot of ideas during chaos. You know, that's why the chaos opportunity meme floats around all the time. The danger is, though, that in that time, and you'll have seen this with the flood of new developers that come in and join the Prog Code network, is that everybody thinks they've got the solution. And an awful lot of really naive solutions come in and split energy and split the group of people, and it's really hard knowing how to balance this. And I think, frankly, you guys are doing a really good job at this already, and corralling people and merging projects. Because it is the last thing that you want, and the left just does it all the time. The left just splits. So, quick summary, quick introduction. Represent. Basically, we're letting anyone vote on anything. We're making the information available to everybody. We break it down by location, demographic analysis. We correlate questions with each other. You can compare yourself with different people on different topics, and then in turn you can delegate your vote to other people, which means that you end up with a totally different model of democracy. It's called liquid democracy. Where you get people that you trust making decisions on your behalf, but when they vote, you get information flowing back down the system. So you build up that trusted relationship, you get information flowing, and so you get a more informed electorate and more ability to seek more consensus faster. There is an open API for absolutely everything that you see on the site, and so we would love for people to take it, build upon it. We've got quite low use numbers, but we've got users in 57 different countries around the world. We are trusted by unions and by the government in the UK. We're working with Parliament and government and MPs to make sure that people, so that when people vote, it counts. That the data that comes in can go straight into Parliament, straight into government, and gets included on bills and documents that they are using. They trust us. And so that's what we've been working on, building those relationships so that then we can grow the user numbers. We're looking for devs and community managers, and now I should really stop talking because I've been going on for ages. Thank you very much.
No worries. But thank you, Ed, for that. I think I totally agree with you with a lot of things that you said. I think there is a huge possibility, chance, or like opportunity to engage people to vote, because I think we had one of the lowest it was the highest turnout in history for America, not in history, but it's still 60%. So we can still do better. So yeah, thank you so much. Are you also heading for dinner?
I kind of do. Is this being recorded?
It is.
Okay, because I don't want to miss out on everything else that everyone's saying, and I'm really, really sorry.
No worries. It's recorded, so don't worry. I'm gonna cut this though. I'm kidding.
We're now late.
But thank you so much again for sharing your time with us. Up next, I think, would be Erika, and thank you, Ed. She has worked with the Bernie Sanders campaign, and she has also worked with the Jeremy Corbyn campaign, and I think it would be a great way for us to get a perspective of like the difference between those two, and like how the groundwork happened here in the UK, and what the emotions are on the ground. So Erika, please take it away. Thank you.
Okay, hey everyone. Can you hear me all right? I'm in an airport right now, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Background noise.
Are you on your way to Roots Camp?
Yeah.
Okay, see you soon.
Oh no, I'm on my way to see you. Cool. Hi everyone. My name's Erika. So just a little background about me, and I'm happy to discuss, further about my two experiences working on Bernie and on the Corbyn campaign. So I'm actually fairly new to organizing, but I left my job for about a year to work for Bernie. And so I was on the organizing side in terms of mobilizing volunteers, which for both Bernie and Corbyn, there were very similar campaigns in that respect, and that both campaigns just were overflowing with people who wanted to help. And actually, given that most political campaigns aren't that, I guess, active in terms of just the volunteer participation, it was more like an issue of like neither campaigns were really equipped to deal with that amount of traffic, and that's where a lot of volunteer mobilization starts to get really important, because the more you can scale, the better you can, serve and have a connection with all your volunteers, and everyone can participate in terms of getting your candidate elected. So I really was working on that strategy of how can we get everyone involved, and how can we get them involved in a meaningful way, how can we build relationships across all these different grassroots groups, which admittedly in the US was pretty overwhelming, and in the UK it's overwhelming as well, but it's a little less overwhelming just because the sheer size is different. But I just had a really great experience working with Momentum, and they'd actually, throughout their campaign, just to give you a sense, so everyone here is from the US, right? Is that Americans now? Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, everyone's gone to dinner. You probably remember with the Bernie campaign, you had a phone banking app, and that was actually already set up by the Democratic Party. There's also a bunch of companies that do it. And with Corbyn, traditionally the Labour Party was going to just use paper lists, and people had to come to trade unions or labor unions to make those calls. And so one thing that a group of coders from Bristol, and unfortunately I cannot take any credit for this work, but they made this phone banking app that made it so anyone can log in online. It's actually a lot more seamless than what we use for Bernie. It's a lot more user-friendly and all that. So, and they're actually using that app to at least kind of do, ideally you want to have face-to-face conversations with voters, but phone banking is really the next best thing you can do. And so what they're trying to do, given that they have such a small team, is with they have different by-elections coming up, which are not elections that are held on election day, but there's some sort of circumstance as to why they're holding a special election. And for each of those, they're trying to have a kind of a combined effort, like countrywide, to help elect someone. Actually, they just got one council seat filled. He's a total volunteer for Corbyn, so he's now in office, and he was able to enter office because people came together and organized for him. So that's kind of one really inspiring story, and that just happened I think like 2 weeks ago. But they're doing that for the next coming by-elections as well, and they're using this phone banking software so that anyone who supports Corbyn can just log on. It's recorded that you made those calls, so it's pretty checked with in terms of there's no one who's making phony calls or anything like that. And it's really great. So that's kind of like the sort of fast and light version of organizing that's happening with the Corbyn campaign. And just looking forward, we're trying to figure out if Theresa May calls for an election, which might happen either next year or in 2020, which would be the latest it can happen. We want to be as ready as we can with that. Of course, currently the political environment isn't great for that, but Momentum, or Momentum's Jeremy Corbyn's kind of group that got him elected the first time, has 20,000 volunteers signed up, and they haven't been really tapped into apart from email blasts. So that's kind of the project ahead for us, and so that we don't take such a huge loss, especially because Tories are kind of getting more powerful recently. But again, I'm not a political expert, but that's kind of my hunch. So yeah, then I'm happy to discuss further about my experiences. Is there anything else you wanted me to cover, Rafi, or is that pretty?
I think that pretty much covers it. I think that was an amazing way of telling us how your experience was during the Corbyn campaign.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a quick 1 minute about what Momentum did, or how it was able to change?
Oh yeah, so you're talking about Momentum specifically. Yeah, so Momentum was kind of a small group of activists that initially got Jeremy Corbyn into the Labour seat, and if you haven't had the chance to read his story as to how he's now the Labour leader, it is something kind of remarkable set of circumstances that allowed this to happen. They recently changed some rules, and then he ran, and then of course the Labour Party was like, haha, he'll never win, and then of course he then won, and it was a lot to do with this group called Momentum that really backed him at the beginning, and they've kind of become his post-campaign organizing of grassroots volunteers, and I believe they might be in the process of growing right now. Things are a bit in flux, and I've been in the US for the past month, so I don't know clearly what's happened yet, but they're planning on kind of keep mobilizing, trying to get more Corbyn supporters into office. It's kind of a bit like the brand new Congress model where we're just like, we need to, replace people basically. And so that's kind of the short-term goal. The long-term goal is to if an election comes up, how can we support Corbyn and other Corbynite Labour Party folks?
Nice. Okay, I think. Thank you so much, Erika.
Yeah.
See you later. I'm really looking forward to brainstorming with you on stuff.
Totally. I should grab your number too, so I'll call you when I get to do.
Right. But I think that's it for this time. Just to answer Harvey's question, you asked what liquid democracy is. Just to answer that, so liquid democracy is essentially, if I understand what Ed was telling me before, it's the way of like having a representative in all levels of districts, right? Like if you have a block, you need to have a representative. You vote who best represents you, but you have your own representative. The representative never wins because you are the one who's choosing that representative to represent you, and that representative would find someone who would represent him in the higher level, and so on and so forth. So what represent.me does is essentially just a cascading way of representation, and depending on who you resonate the most and which issues you are resonating further. So I hope that clears up what liquid democracy is. Do you want to say something about it? No? Okay. Does anyone else have questions? Cool. Okay. I think that's it. I love it that we did it for 30 minutes. That was my main goal. So, but I hope that this meeting was able to like give you a sense of like how Britain was after Brexit and how tech was after then, so that we can move forward with this in the United States. So, this will be just one of many talks that we will be doing soon. So I'm hoping that later on it's much way more organized and like declared earlier, because I was just really, I really just wanted to set this up soon, because later on the coming weeks would be really busy for us. So thank you so much everyone for coming, and I'll post this online soon.
Hey Robbie, will you stay on the call for a second?
Thanks everybody.
Okay, bye.